So if we're going to work with large media outlets, having direct relationship with them and being able to tie in directly to their APIs to parse and help be a distribution engine for their content is a lot more valuable than trying to go scrape content from them.
Hello and welcome to the Media Copilot. It's a podcast that explores how AI is changing media, journalism, and content creation. I'm Pete Pachal, longtime tech journalist and founder of the Media Copilot, and I'm excited to bring you fascinating conversations with fellow journalists, media executives, and the people building how the business of news will work in the future. This week, I'm thrilled to welcome Ryan Heafy, co-founder and COO of 6am City. If you follow the local newsletter space, you know 6am City has built one of the fastest growing newsletter companies in the country, starting in Greenville, South Carolina back in 2016, and now reaching nearly 2 million readers across more than 400 cities. Ryan's background is unique. Before local media, he was actually a mechanical engineer, and he is the rare mix of technical rigor and entrepreneurial drive that's been one of the key ingredients in how 6am City has scaled. Now comes arguably their boldest move yet, acquiring DALL-E, the controversial network of AI-generated local newsletters. DALL-E was on the receiving end of some flack earlier this year when it was called out for low-quality AI content in its several hundred local newsletters, which apparently were run by a single person. So it's no surprise that the deal with 6am City has raised a few eyebrows, but it also sets the stage for a different kind of AI-enabled local media model, one that treats newsletters as seed markets that might grow into full editorial operations. Ryan and I get into all of it, the challenges and potential of adapting DALL-E's technology, other ways AI can possibly drive growth even while we pass peak newsletter, and what the future of local journalism looks like when AI is woven into it at every layer. I hope you enjoy the conversation, and if you do, I'd also be grateful if you'd leave a review for the podcast. Reviews, especially in Apple and Spotify, really do help the show, so please leave one if you can. Also, a couple quick notes. First, I'm offering a monthly class on AI for beginners. It's only 60 minutes. And like everything I do, it's focused on practical takeaways for media professionals, people in VR, communications, and journalism. And it's only $49. Each one's a live class, so it's always up to date, and I guarantee you'll walk away with something you can apply in your day-to-day. You can sign up at mediacopilot.ai. Also, for deeper training on AI, I offer 2 different 6-week courses that are starting in October. One's for journalists, the other's for PR and comms. And these are loaded with things like deep research, use cases, how to automate workflows, and building your own AI agent. You can sign up for those at where else? mediacopilot.ai. Okay, now it's time for my conversation with Ryan Heafy, co-founder and COO of 6am City. Ryan, welcome to the Media Copilot.
Good afternoon. It's great to be here with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super glad we're finally connecting or reconnecting. I know it's been a long time since we last chatted, and I know 6am City's grown a lot since we last talked. I'm not sure the stats. I'm sure you could tell me. I've heard it's hundreds of cities and close to 2 million subscribers. But I also know you've recently made an interesting acquisition. And it seems to be part of a broader strategy to adapt to this world of AI that the whole media world is trying to figure out and adapt because it's on us. But before we get into all that, I'd love you if you could just sort of set the stage a little bit, give us the state of things at 6am, and why don't you tell us what the 6am City's North Star is as you're scaling? Are you primary community media brand or more of an AI-enabled local media platform? Like, how do you see yourselves?
So 6am City at its core, daily email newsletter, conversational in tone, focused on the most relevant, need to know local news and events. That's the core premise of the business and has been for the past now 9 to 10 years. That product has differentiated itself historically by not covering politics, crime and punishment, or divisive topics in local communities. And we started in one city in Greenville, South Carolina, under a legacy print media company. And through evolution, we started to expand that footprint in a more cost-efficient model where there was 2 editors per city, sales team supporting, and had expanded across the Southeast. We got that to 21 markets over several years. Recently have expanded that to over 30 cities in that core model. But really recognize that the world is changing, and even our highly efficient, profitable model had opportunity to be even more efficient and to allow us to expand into more markets. And so today, through acquisition and some evolution of the business, we operate in 410 cities in America. We have 380 of those are what we call our seed markets that are AI empowered newsletter products supported by self-serve advertising and national advertising revenue. And then we have about 31 and growing core products, which are human powered newsletters with a lot of uh, process efficiency and automation that help them be way more dangerous and relevant in their content creation process, and how fast we're able to deliver content at scale. So that's the ecosystem. And for us, if we look at the North Star, how do we become the most relevant, need to know name in local media in the cities that we serve? And how do you go from 400 to 2000? And how do you do that in a stair-stepped approach where we call it seed, launch, growth, profit? Seed market is your AI enabled, and a profit market has editorial staff, has sales staff, is a more robust product for our cities. And so that journey is about how do you operate each of those as a profitable model. And so one graduates to the next, it gets more resources as as that revenue threshold hits, as the audience threshold hits, and you kind of keep pushing that up, and you take, maybe an AI based newsletter that can do $60,000 a year in revenue in a market, and then you turn that into our profit markets, our core profit markets, where you now have editorial staff and sales staff, and it's a $600 to $1.2 million a year product times 2,000 cities. And so we do see this ability to reimagine the future of local, and understand that you need to take baby steps, which we can do really fast thanks to AI. And then you can scale that into what people are maybe more familiar with as local media historically.
So that's really interesting on the sort of the seed to core, I guess, market life cycle for your newsletters. And curious, like what is you kind of went over a few stats and revenue figures, but what is the bar then to sort of graduate from one to the other? You mentioned sort of like you could go from 60,000 to something higher. Is it a case of revenue? Is it user interest? Do you see growth? How do you measure like, okay, this is ready to graduate?
So the way that we look at a seed market is, because it's AI empowered and it's self-serve revenue models primarily supported by national, we know those can get up on their own to being a $5,000, $10,000 run rate. As they get to that $5,000 a month run rate or $60,000 a year, you're coming up on the ability to support a full-time salesperson. Obviously, or full-time editorial person. Obviously, um, the cost of living is different in other different parts of the country, and
Right.
$60,000 is not like going to cover the full cost. But when we get there, we know that we're on trajectory to be able to cover the cost of a person, which means we can put that job posting out to hire the editor in that market. We know that we can deploy additional sales talent towards that market, even if it's fractional in some regard. So $60,000 in revenue is really more the primary driver for the ability to move up funnel. Um, do subscribers and other traction matter? Yes. Ultimately, you need to have enough subscribers, really not subscribers, but opens, impressions, and click through performance in a newsletter, like, to support the revenue. And so for us, once we have 20,000 or so subscribers in a market at a 60% open rate and a 13% click through rate, we know that we have a product that we can take from doing $5,000 a month and be able to push that up, invest in exploiting the audience growth, and really take it to the next level. So for me, maybe 20,000 high quality engaged subscribers and $5,000 a month allows you to put a human behind it and take it to the next level.
Can you explain a little more exactly what a seed newsletter is in terms of like what is the AI putting together? Is there like some secret sauce that you're putting on top of it, whether it's something AI generated? Also, like clarify if there is any AI generated content because there's like curation and content, etc. So just clarify like what's in it, and then sort of how do you sort of breathe on those things to sort of add value and sort of make sure that people are like seeing like something good out of this, and obviously you're seeing the curves go in the right direction, which I imagine is rather difficult without a full-time editorial person.
I think one of the things that folks perceive about AI newsletters, and actually a lot of AI newsletters work, is they're sourcing like other news from other people and just repackaging it. And like, oh, I'm just going to go lift all the other local media companies' content and just shove it into a newsletter. And would actually probably argue that, and Good Daily, the product that we acquired, did do that. Like that's the path of least resistance. It's easiest. We are evolving the model to become less dependent on uh, other media outlets. Generally, the belief is that the traditional media outlets in most of our cities where we operate are not going to be in existence in the same construct that they are today, anyways. So you don't want to build something on rented land, which I would describe most local media companies to be. It's there, it exists, it's great. The other problem with local media content is it's all inherently biased. As neutral as someone wants to be, no matter how you write, your word choice makes your content inherently biased. So if AI is using that as a reference point, it's less likely to be accurate. And so how do you go and leverage your technology to pull from other factual data sets that are actually true? So if I can go and understand what the top businesses in my community are doing and talking about and go to their sites and their content pages and stuff like that organically or intentionally rather, I'm more likely to get the right information, to get it faster. They have their own content creation teams now, as do most large businesses and small businesses. Their social channels, everything
Also,
is.
probably enhanced by AI.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, correct. But they're doing a lot more work, and it's what they want out there. And a lot of those folks would pay for the distribution. So you actually now end up in a position where we're serving as a distribution partner for a lot of the voices in a community that are otherwise underserved by the legacy media outlets. It prevents friction with legacy media platforms. It creates a more defensible product for us going forward, allows us to focus on multiple content verticals, and we can produce relevant content faster. And so all of what we're doing here for the seed product, we also have as transferable to our core product where we have human editors. There's no reason I shouldn't have my human editor get a message in the morning that says, "Hey, Danielle, hope you're having a great day. Here's the 20 things you should be paying attention to this morning." And you make the human more dangerous. And so I think the way that we're leveraging AI for the seed markets is much more uh, fact-based, tied to data sets and the original source of content, that allows us to differentiate a good bit. And the other big thing is we've established, although not publicly shared yet, a lot of strategic content partnerships with major data sets and other content entities. So if we're going to work with large media outlets, having direct relationship with them and being able to tie in directly to their APIs, to parse and help be a distribution engine for their content is a lot more valuable than trying to go scrape content from them. And so we have more accurate information in a correct, timely manner with a direct relationship, that has some shared value between both parties. We're finding to be a much better approach. And so all of that said, the current seed market construct that 6am has is still looking and feeling a lot like what we acquired. Come October, we'll see a major brand refresh that I think a lot of folks will be really inspired by, and how that looks and feels going forward.
Okay, interesting. So you're taking stuff from the quote unquote original sources of the entities, I guess, in the area. I imagine that includes some social media, but also you're supplementing that with the some content from partners, sort of larger national partners that are then sort of put in that, and then you have an AI that is basically figuring out what's relevant and then sort of generating the content. Is that basically it, or if I missed something there?
Yes, and so uh, it's basically taking all of the content that we are have access to, reviewing it, ranking it, in a manner that's consistent with our editorial ethics and what we do cover. So staying out of politics and divisive topics, etc. And then it's repackaging that information into our content formats, which might be a news note or a text ad structure. So 50 words and a link, or it might
Gotcha.
be more of a mini article that's a little bit more built out and have a graphical element. It also depends on who the partner is, and how that for some of the content, and like how we're able to render much more engaging content or visually appealing content, based off of things that we have available to us.
And did you, in terms of the process, did a lot of that come from Good Daily? What did Good Daily, that acquisition, I think it was July, I think it was announced. What did that add in terms of capability or even strategy that you didn't already have?
We did not have any AI. Not that we didn't have any AI strategy. We had a process efficiency strategy. So I'm a mechanical engineer by degree, Lean Six
Oh,
Sigma,
nice.
this quality systems, right? And
Okay.
so the reason
Electrical.
why
Anyway.
the reason why we've been successful, as a business, I think, is because my business partner, Ryan Johnston, comes from legacy print model. They were trying to get into digital, and I brought the operational efficiency of the engineering world to a local media company. And you combine those things together, and we've been building the playbook. Essentially, we literally have a playbook. I remember in the beginning, it was like multiple 3-ring binders thick of like, this is exactly how we do what we do. Today, all that's gone into Trainual and other things, and we've been building tech on our own, without really an engineering team. And so we had a skills gap in the company that needed to be filled. And we also have always gone the way of how do you bring the talent or resource to the team over building from scratch. We've watched so many people spend a fortune trying to build the wrong thing. And so
Mm,
when we identified Good Daily, it was the tech infrastructure, the understanding of email, deliverability. It's kind of like if you had a developer that understood AI and the newsletter space and email deliverability and all the things that tie into that, and kind of had it figured out, and you could bring that person on the team. Why not figure out how to do 1 + 1 = 5? And that's really what's happened, and it's expedited our path and ability. We have a VP of engineering and Matthew Henderson on the team. I would probably describe him as a unicorn in the dev space, which is very hard to find. And when you find one, you start dating it, and then you bring it in the team. So that's what we did. We found a great fit. Matthew has incredible technical acumen, but one person can only go so far. Um, and if you're able to bring the depth of bench that we have with our sales team, our editorial team, and work together, we can move mountains instead of independently crawl along. At the same time, we're also exponentially more nimble than most legacy media companies by the nature of the fact that we're new, we're smaller, we don't have legacy systems and process. We have a lot of highly motivated individuals on the team to be innovative. And so that allows us just to move at light speeds faster than anyone who might be considered competition. So right now, how do we get to 2000 cities? How do you operate this in 24 months in 2000 cities, right? and make it a extremely profitable engine. And so I would say that's really where we're focused right now. And that talent that Matthew brought to the table has really expedited the ability to make that a reality.
Nice. And certainly Good Daily, got some press before you acquired them. I don't know if it was just Matthew or if he had a team, but I know there was like some cease and desist orders. People were complaining about whether they even were adhering to the robots exclusion protocol. And then there was just the general sort of quality of what they were putting out in various communities. I know that you were quoted once as saying it was a massive scam and it had fake testimonials and this kind of thing. So it had some reputational issues. So, but I find that very interesting that now you've kind of recognized what was good about that whole situation and extracted it out. Can you tell me, like, was there a moment or a thing you saw or even just a conversation that was like, wait a minute, despite all of this and despite what I was thinking before, there's a real opportunity here and we should grab it?
I'd first say that maybe what I was thinking before might be misrepresented. However,
Nope.
I think
It's your opportunity to set the record straight right here.
right. So I think while maybe aligning with and getting on the bandwagon of what other people were thinking at the time, to also maybe learn, proved to be a winning formula. I mean, we were able to come to some discovery to identify and meet Matthew to then recognize truly what existed. There was very evidently a infrastructure that was awesome. What people saw externally might have appeared inaccurate, but it appears inaccurate or in maybe falsely representing uh, testimonials. Well, I can tell you that every local media company out there has testimonials in their pitch deck that they don't share publicly, like Matthew did, that are crap. They've been around in their pitch deck for 10 years of someone who doesn't even advertise with them anymore, or they're from some other publication in a different market. And you shove your testimonials together by being so open and so innovative. And Matthew put all of the cards out on the table. And as one person who can only update so many things at a time, you then leave yourself exposed to being criticized for not tackling the small potatoes. So the sales page, which really was the least of Matthew's concerns that maybe has testimonials on it that were aggregated, which why would you not aggregate and share the great testimonials regardless of what market you're in? Like all that small potatoes. And so at the end of the day, the technology is there, the resources there. When you meet Matthew and understand what he had built, all the other noise goes away. And a lot of times people are frustrated with innovation when something, people don't come after someone uh, because they're losing. They come after someone because maybe they figured something out. And so people had reached out to Matthew over time. Um, and in the risk assessment of that, it's not really a concern, especially as we were our evolution and opportunity we saw with the product. And just generally, like, Matt challenge status quo. You're gonna have, speed bumps when you're pushing the limits and testing new things, and that's normal and okay. And also completely normal for all these other businesses. Again, Matthew built in public. If you talk to any other media company, they're all getting all sorts of complaints. How many people send in and say that that photo you used didn't have the proper credit, or like, I mean, like, there's so many complaints that folks get as different media companies. His were just out in the open. I would describe him as no different than anyone else, just a lot more innovative.
Yeah, yeah, I get it. I think what I'm hearing is that once you sort of looked at it, there was not sort of an intent to deceive or run a scam. Well, it was just kind of like trying things out, but perhaps from a stance that was like not really informed about things like editorial standards and what have you. And obviously that's a lot of what you guys bring to the table. Okay. I just stepping back from the Good Daily stuff. I'd love to just but keeping with AI, I wonder what is your 6 a.m. cities anyway, your overall stance on the AI use in the editorial process, particularly AI generated content. It sounds like it is present, but there must be some guidelines or guardrails. How do you sort of define its role in terms of what it can be used for, what it shouldn't be used for, and how do you sort of see that evolving?
There is a lot of time-consuming work that any journalist does in research and discovery and learning, and we have identified ways to expedite a lot of that and still have editorial oversight. And so even in our seed markets, which I would describe as an AI empowered newsletter, and in many cases has generative elements tied to it, it also has a lot of content that is sourced directly from other partners. That is 100% editorially written that we are just happen to be using AI to pull together and package correctly, and AI to personalize it so that you're getting the right sports content based off of where you live, where someone else is getting something different. So uh, AI is more about process for us than on the generative side. And the stuff that is more generative, we've trained the technology on our editorial ethics and standards and 6 a.m.'s brand standards and guidelines. And you can teach it all of that stuff, and you can teach it your tone and voice, and it gets pretty damn good, especially when built off of factually accurate data sets. And so we leverage our product studio, which is an editorial, a lot of like senior editorial folks. And if we have a content section that we want to run in the newsletter, they have gone and identified and built out what that content should look like, regardless of city. And a lot of times it's using the AI to match the data sets on the content format. So let's use Mansion Mondays. We're going to go pull a real estate listing from a community that falls into a set of criteria that you can establish from prompting. And then they lay out like, I need an H1 headline, something about which real estate company is. I need an image. I need X amount of characters of copy and a CTA and the price. And like, this is what we want it to look like. This is the format. The editorial team establishes that. We pass it to creative. They design the look and feel. We provide that to the dev team, who then says, hey, we're going to go, well, we either can establish a formal resource and relationship with CoStar or whatever, and then we can pass that information straight through, and AI ingest puts it into the format and packaging. And yes, did AI create it? 100% within our standards and our direction.
Right.
And so because we don't do investigative journalism, that's not our skill set. There's other people in the market that are really good at that. Like, we're not going and creating generative opinions about the local, city hall meeting this. Like,
I
that's
would hope no one is. To be honest with you, the
unfortunately, I think
opinion's a weird one.
some are.
Yeah.
But I think if you use it in an appropriate structure, and the kind of content that we share and parse out is designed to help people understand how to spend their time, talent, and treasure locally. And generally, the data sets and information that we have paired with the generative elements of AI are accurate for the most part. I mean, we go through and we QA it all as much as possible. Obviously, you can't publish daily in 400 cities and have every single line of every newsletter read, but we have a pretty robust QA process. And
I
that's
was just
awesome.
going to ask, and specifically not just QA, but like hallucinations themselves. Like, how do you handle that? Is it just basic human in the loop, or like how do you mitigate that? I guess from both the tech side and the human side.
Generally, we're not seeing it in that QA process. And I would venture to say that our technology and how we've evolved it and the prompting and things that we've taught it, and how we limit it in nature,
Right.
makes it a lot less likely to hallucinate. We generally write things in a GEO optimized structure. So we're writing the answers and we're writing them in short format. And the shorter your format is, the less likely you are to have hallucinations or other issues. So by the nature of the structure of our content, it's not going to have the same problem someone would have with a longer form piece of content, that other more traditional outlets are experiencing. Tends to not be the level of, we don't have the same level of issue that other folks do.
You mentioned GEO, and I'd love to sort of zoom out even more on sort of the media space and ecosystem, but particularly where you operate, kind of in the newsletter world, because I think it's something people don't think about a lot. Because obviously, newsletter. You mentioned a lot of the stats of like deliverability and open rate and all these things. And there's new AI tools, both specific and general, for people to manage inboxes and newsletters. And sort of all this ties into what often people talk about, newsletter fatigue or peak newsletter or whatever. I'd love to know if you think we're there or whatever. But generally, my question is, how is AI affecting all of that, given all those things? And I know there's no single answer, but what are you seeing, and then how does that affect 6 a.m. City's long-term sort of content strategy? Is it going? I mean, maybe you're already thinking about going beyond the newsletter and doing things or that reach things into other platforms. But how are you thinking about it? But also, how quickly are things changing in that space specifically?
Um, I would take, like, there's 3 topics there. Peak
Yeah, at
news.
least I think it was probably a half dozen. But go on, pick it in whatever order you want.
I got peak newsletter, GEO, and where we're going.
Yeah, with AI in the ecosystem, because it's
Yeah,
obviously
and so
affecting even inboxes.
if I took the AI component and inboxes, I think that the model that we're creating lends itself to make us very relevant in the inbox. So, like, if I was writing, Adam Ryan does a great job of talking about how, like, newsletters actually might have a material challenge in the inbox going forward, as Google and other things are summarizing it. But if you're creating it in summary format in the first place, you are kind of actually optimizing to be the result. And so if we are producing our content in a manner that the summarization tools care about, and we don't necessarily care a ton about the web traffic anyways. We don't care where the consumer goes after they come and stop by us. Then it's not necessarily a bad thing. But the other thing that's maybe more important about where we're going is, we establish a body of work essentially every day for every community. We look at, what does local media look like in 2 to 5 years? And through all the conversations that I'm having, and we're having as a business with different larger media outlets, especially in broadcast and newspaper, uh, linear morning newscasts, I don't anticipate to exist in 2 to 5 years, or evening newscasts. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, you can replace the weatherman. You don't need the TV anchor. You have AI avatars. Anybody can read a script, and you can actually make it look as real as us talking here today. Uh, so who's optimizing for that solution? And if everything's going streaming, OTT, different distribution channels, people's consumption habits are changing. So the news consumer um, of the future is probably getting their news in a pre-established format on YouTube Shorts and Insta Reels and Google Home and Amazon Alexa. And are you positioned as a media company to provide the inputs to be a relevant part of that mix? And so I think that a big focus on we have a body of work that can be packaged and distributed in any manner, including audio and video when it's time. And so we've dabbled in a lot of all of that already, in AI chatbots and co-pilots and all the things that might be applicable to positioning for the future. There's a lot of focus there right now, behind the scenes, and we'll be deploying stuff that I think people will find pretty unique, interesting for the local ecosystem. But I think at the same time, we are foreshadowing further consolidation and decline of local in the way that we know it now, repositioning of it. And so most of those entities have a really hard time. It's like moving the Titanic. Like if you want to change and get buy-in, just to get buy-in on the word AI is extremely challenging
Sure.
in a legacy newsroom. And so if you want to actually make moves, how do you do that? And we're not burdened by some of that legacy mindset, and just the infrastructure around some of the legacy newspaper and broadcast company or linear TV companies. So like how do we take advantage of that now? We're in a really unique position. And if we build the right infrastructure and we expand audiences and really focus on packaging and distribution, how can we ensure that we're always in front of people regardless of evolution? If one platform goes down, disappears, it should have zero impact on our business. And we intend to be the leader in that space.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a kind of an intersection of a few different trends, is how you're thinking about it, which is that the certainly like liquid content was a big part of what you're talking about, which I think is the new trendy term of like, okay, can you have an input that can then be a part of the mix of what someone wants, and then in whatever format they want, whether it's like a podcast, a video, a newsletter, or what have you. And um, I think the other one is, the hyper personalization, although, I always question the prefix a little bit. But I guess you have to differentiate it from the personalization that came before. And the the unlocking the locals connection to that, right? Because it's more than just preference. And so um it seems like you guys are sort of making a bid to be that component. It's like, okay, you have a package of things you need to know, news, etc., utility, and local, and sort of you're kind of saying like, we can, with our platform, we will have both the content and the sort of ways to connect to that for any particular user in any of the whatever how many thousand markets are in. That's kind of the vision.
Got it.
Nice. All right. I'm always glad when I got it. I don't know if you answered the peak newsletter question. Where do you think we are with that? And does it even matter given everything that we're talking about and where the media is going?
I do think that we're not necessarily at peak newsletter because I think there's this like second wave of like AI slop newsletters that are emerging. But if you look at the rise of Beehive, for example, everyone, COVID, post COVID, wanted to create a newsletter about a thing. And so a ton of them have hopped on and built one. Now you have all these AI based ones. Now, what's happening, and we're seeing, because I get asked like on a daily basis, will you buy my newsletter? We're sitting here going and observing two things. I think, uh, well, again, one other use case of the growth was all these nonprofits funded a bunch of like local newsrooms through like Facebook journalism projects and all this other stuff that gave people enough runway and enough hope to go create something and thinking that it was going to be a valuable asset. And the reality is people are coming to recognize that my 50,000 subscribers or 20,000 subscribers and $100,000 a year in annual revenue really isn't actually worth anything other than a lifestyle business. And so while it's cute and cool that you're making some money, does someone actually want to buy that? And a lot of folks think that that means that they're going to be worth $250,000 or $2 million, or it's a $75 million morning brew exit. Like, no, that's not
Doubtful.
the reality. And I think a lot of these folks, if you're doing $100,000 a year in revenue on 25,000 subscribers, by the time I buy your subscribers at a discounted rate of maybe 25 cents a subscriber, maybe there's, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 grand worth of audience that maybe I care about. You're doing $100,000 in revenue. Of that revenue build, you've got, well, count yourself. That's $75,000 in costs if you're only doing that, paying yourself that much. So now you're making 25K. You got your ESP subscription and every other tech thing you use.
Right.
All your like you're not making any money. It's a loss. Like, why would I buy that? So I think there's a pipe dream. And what's happening is all those people who have the pipe dream are getting tired and fatigued. And so they've built these things, they've spun out, whether they were a journalist that didn't have the business acumen, a entrepreneurial startup type person who got inspired. They're constantly coming to us going, I'm tired. I've been doing this for 3 years. It's all consuming of my time. Will you buy it? And the quick math example I provided says, no, like it doesn't make sense. I can go spend $100,000 in your market and grow a much larger audience that's $1 million product. So just we're having a hard time actually having some of those conversations with folks and like coming to the reality that the dream uh doesn't align with realistic outcomes. And I think that as we see more fatigue, we're seeing more newsletters close, more small media companies close, and a lot of them do it silently. They just stop publishing one day. And I think there's an interesting evolution there.
Um, so it sounds like we're past peak newsletter as a business anyway, and now we're getting to potentially be past it as a thing people use to consume media. Now that we're getting more sorting and AI in the system. Um, okay, that's interesting. Do you think there is still room in the ecosystem for those people to succeed in sort of other media or with AI? I don't know. Like, do you feel that that trend of people going more niche, which certainly has been the thing for a while, and not just people going more niche, but like talented journalists leaving and creating their own platforms? Do you think it's now just hitting that business reality that you just outlined, and might the tables might turn a bit, and we might see even a consolidation of providers for these AI engines? Is that's sort of the new trend that you're thinking might happen?
Yes, if I was thinking about the future of local, and the newspaper and TV that we know today not existing, you have distribution platform like us working with folks who are passionate about other community topics. So you're getting this niche creator concept is happening in the creator economy, whether they produce it in a newsletter, on a website, in a wherever the content's being produced. If that person may be the expert locally on covering the local city hall meetings and other government and topics, right? Or the local healthcare system, health and wellness in the community. And so the ability to partner that creator economy and these people who will become experts in their market and can monetize around it. Or, I am covering local health and wellness and I make money in the health and wellness space with my courses and other stuff. But now they're a key factor in the build of the distribution vehicle. They don't have to worry about all the other sales or that newsletter by itself being the source of income. And I think you're seeing that now already. A lot of these creators are going, well, damn, I have to have events, I have to have a course, I have to have a thing. Like, and then they're hopping into all these buckets because the newsletter as a standalone, which is where a lot of folks started, isn't necessarily um panning out.
Trying not to be seen by all of that. So that's all good stuff. But certainly resonates and is hard to argue against. The Just to sort of steer it back to you guys and your plans and what you're up to, you hinted at earlier the big revamp or some kind of makeover in October. With obviously you're going to wait till then to show everything, but can you give us a little bit more on what that is, even strategically, and what are people going to see from your newsletters and your platform in a few weeks?
All of our seed newsletters will be realigned to look and feel a lot like our core product in all of our markets. And you'll see us come out through Q4 with a lot of strategic content partners that I think will um, show off and add a lot of value and allow us to target and personalize local content in a manner that is pretty unique. The look and feel and build of our product we know to be strong. There's strong product market fit. People love the fact that we don't cover politics and crime and punishment and divisive topics. We'll stay that way. Nothing about the product itself from an editorial perspective will change. We will just expand our ability to deliver more verticals potentially as well. That allows us to expand our reach and serve communities in a way that helps to move the needle for the future of local. And in doing all of that, the other thing that I would say that's also becoming a lot more robust is um, newsletters as a service side of the business and our product studio. Because of our success in the local space, a lot of other large media companies, brands, et cetera, have asked us to step in and fill the void where they are lacking in the newsletter space or in monetization. Um, and so we have an entire newsletter studio now that's building newsletters for other people
Wow.
or with audience and revenue. And so I think that that's a pretty unique aspect of the business that's also growing, but those things are also beneficial for us. So if we're building content and products for other folks and have access to shared content and data and resources, we're able to be more dangerous for them as a client and also maybe bring some of that content, data, relationships back into our core. So a lot going on there.
Nice. Is that like white label type stuff so that I wouldn't even know this is a 6 a.m. city produced
That's correct.
thing? Cool.
Yep.
So you can't tell me, I guess, who, where I might have seen a 6 a.m. city newsletter, but not known it.
The primary verticals would be DMOs, travel and tourism,
Okay. So,
healthcare systems, and some sports and master plan communities. So different areas where there's population sets that people want to reach. And then we're looking at some other brand related verticals right now where, I mean, think about like Target should be talking to us to create a product that connects with the consumer, or Home Depot.
right.
Hey, I want to talk to all these people in these communities about where they live, and here's all the cool stuff and projects and DIY things you should be doing at your house. Well, if you can go create a newsletter that's actually adds value to the consumer, it's a lot better than the e-commerce slop newsletter that they're sending out. While that can
Right. Yeah. I hear you.
class things, let's build a relationship on behalf of a brand that establishes stronger brand affinity, and then you sell passively through all of that. So those are the kind of things where we're playing around. We have a huge and amazing content creation team, and they're making those things a reality.
Cool. Always good to alter reality. Ryan, this has been great. We're going to leave it there, but thanks for dropping by, sharing your thoughts on the future in AI, and telling us everything that 6 a.m. City's up to.
Awesome, Pete. Appreciate the time.
Thanks for listening to my conversation with Ryan Heafy of 6 a.m. City. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd appreciate it if you'd just take a minute to leave a rating or review for the Media Copilot in your podcast app. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Media Copilot newsletter and check out mediacopilot.ai for our classes on AI for journalists, PR professionals, and communicators. Seeing you in the future.